What's up, guys? Welcome back to your Heroclix headquarters. It's that time again for Power of the Week, the weekly series where we take a look at a Heroclix power, see what it does, see what it combos with, its strengths and weaknesses, and this week you guys wanted to see telekinesis, so that's what we're going to cover. And as always, we've got our handy dandy pack right here to help us. So if you guys are new to Heroclix, I wanted to first go over some other things in the pack that it's brought up in the standard power of telekinesis, just so that you're familiar with these things when we actually read the power of telekinesis. So to start with, we're going to look at the inherent abilities. This can also be found on the pack. The one we're going to look at is at the very bottom under Range Object Action. It says range, minimum range value 6. If this character is holding an object, make a range attack targeting a single character that instead of normal damage deals 2 damage if the object is light or 3 damage if the object is heavy. Immediately after the attack resolves, KO the object. Alright, and then the other thing that we're going to want to look at is under the improved abilities, the improved targeting ability at the very bottom, the symbol that has the 2 circles with an arrow through it, and it says this character can make ranged attacks while adjacent to opposing characters. May target adjacent or non-adjacent opposing characters. Alright, so now that we know what those 2 things do, we can read through telekinesis and find out everything that it can do. So telekinesis is going to be a standard attack power, and it's going to be the gray one all the way at the bottom, and it says telekinesis, power, minimum range value 6, improved targeting, can make ranged attacks while adjacent to opposing characters, pick up an object, light or heavy, within range and line of fire, then give a range object action at no cost, or place it in a square within range and line of fire. Now, there's a separate thing you can do with telekinesis, and that is, again, power, minimum range value 6, place one target single base character within range and line of fire into another square within range and line of fire. That square must be within 6 squares in line of fire from the target's current square. If the target is an opposing character, first make a ranged attack, and the hit target is then placed instead of normal damage. Characters placed by this power can't use telekinesis this turn. Alright, so that's a lot of words, but it might do us good to look at a map with some characters and see how it works in action. So let's go check it out. Alright, so as we can see here, we have the new Dr. Fate that has the gray attack power telekinesis on his dial there. Now if he wanted to use the first part of telekinesis, we would give him a power action, and then he could pick up an object within his range and line of fire, minimum range 6 if he didn't have 6 range already, and then he can either place it into any other square he wanted to within his range and line of fire, or he could make an ranged object attack with it, which is also within his minimum range value 6. So if, for instance, he wanted to make an attack on this Black Widow over here, since he can see this object, it's within his range and line of fire, he can essentially pick it up and then make a ranged attack with it, targeting Black Widow. Since it's a red heavy object, it'll do 3 damage. If it was a yellow light object, it would deal 2 damage. After making the object attack hit or miss, the object would be KO'd and removed from the game. And if it was a special object with points, it would be scored for your opponent or for you, depending on whose object it was. Now this can be useful for a number of reasons. For one, even if you already had a 3 damage, maybe you just wanted to get rid of an object, maybe it was your opponent's object and you didn't want them to be able to equip it, maybe your opponent has another character around the corner with super strength and charge, and you just wanted to get rid of it so that they don't, charge, pick it up, and hit you for that extra 2 damage with a close attack. Or maybe you even want to just move the object closer to one of your characters and let them pick it up, which can of course be a very strong strategy for your first turn to actually telekinesis the objects over to you and have your good characters equip them. There's plenty of strong special objects that you could use for that kind of strategy. So now for the second part of telekinesis, if you wanted to place friendly characters, it's as simple as giving your guy with telekinesis his power action, and then counting your squares and drawing your line of fire. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's obviously a clear line of fire. From both of these, it's within 6 squares, so he can just place him right there like that. And this is a really great way of extending your character's reach so that they could potentially running shot or hypersonic speed or just move up for next turn, whatever you need to do. Being able to move your characters around like this without giving them an action token can be incredibly beneficial for numerous reasons. So telekinesis is an incredibly powerful tool for placing your characters where you need them to be. In this instance here, we have our buddy Red Tornado locked in close combat with Black Widow, and maybe this isn't where he wants to be, so we want to give our guy Dr. Fate here that power action to use telekinesis to move him out of the way, and now he could make a ranged attack if he wanted to, or maybe if he wants to move or even sidestep away into a safer position. So it's not only a good way of launching your characters into the fight, it's also a great way of pulling them out of the fight. If you think you might be in a bad position or potentially losing, you could pull them back, and maybe you have a healer over here somewhere that could help you out. And another thing you can do with telekinesis besides moving your own characters is move your opponent's characters. Now this is a little harder to do since you do have to make an attack roll, but you can target a character within your range and line of fire, and if you hit with your attack roll, you could then place them within 6 squares in line of fire of their current square. So maybe you want to pull them into your team, maybe you have a bunch of close combat guys over here that are ready to charge in, and you can just swarm and dogpile one of their characters, as opposed to only being able to telekinesis one of your characters forward. Pulling theirs into a kill box situation could be more beneficial if you're willing to risk making the attack roll. So the options and uses and applications of telekinesis can be practically infinite. And it's only really limited by your own imagination and the kind of strategy you can come up with on the fly, besides just the basic sending them out on the first turn type of situation. So let's look at some of the things that combo well with telekinesis. For one, a long range can combo well with telekinesis. Alright, so I have a figure here. Phoenix from the X-Men animated set has a 25-point line. Now she's got telekinesis for only 25 points, and she's colossal and has a 10 range. So characters with an incredibly long range like that with telekinesis can be very helpful, because not only can they get to your characters that are further away to maybe pull them back, they could also send them further forward. It still has to be within their range and line of fire and within 6 squares of their current square, but if they're already, say, 4 squares out, and you could still send them 6 squares away from her, because she does have that 10 range reach with the telekinesis. And also having colossal size or some other type of improved targeting abilities, such as being able to see through walls or elevated or characters, it can be very beneficial for telekinesis, since you do have to have line of fire for what you're trying to place. In a situation like this, where our friend Black Widow got surrounded by some enemies, she can actually see over them in this case, and could telekinesis her 6 squares off this way, out of harm's way, which a normal sized telekineser would not be able to do, because they would not be able to see past these characters. Alright, now some things that might be important to note is that due to the wording on telekinesis, you can actually place yourself within 6 squares in line of fire. Since you are a target single base character within your own range and line of fire, and you are friendly, you can place yourself 6 squares away. Situations like that could be useful if you're trying to get away but you don't want to roll breakaway. If you have telekinesis, you can actually place yourself 6 squares away without having to make a breakaway roll. Now, it's important to note that this would not work with a character like Phoenix, since she is a multi-based character, telekinesis can only move single-based characters. Any regular single-based character like this can be placed, but if they are any bigger than that, they cannot be placed. Now, that does not have anything to do with the size, so the fact that she is a colossal size character does not matter. If she was a single-based colossal size character, it would still be okay. It's just the fact that her base is 2x2 squares, or a character, even the peanut-based characters that have just 2 square bases, those also cannot be placed by telekinesis. Giants and colossals can, so long as they're single-based. Alright, so another strength of telekinesis is actually the map. A wide open map like this with plenty of clear lines of fire for placing your characters can be very beneficial. If you were to find yourself on a map with lots of indoor walls or blocking terrain, where it's incredibly difficult to draw a straight line of fire more than a couple of squares, that could really hinder the effectiveness of your telekinesis. So winning map roll can be very beneficial if telekinesis is a main part of your strategy. Alright, so now we're to that point of the video where I like to show you guys some of my favorite characters that can use telekinesis. So, we have Dr. Fate here. He has telekinesis. He's only 65 points. He's got some enhancement that also helps out the teams. He's a Mystic team abilities. Pretty good character. But the main reason I like him, he's got this trait that during Force Construction, you can add Dr. Fate for 10 points, but only if you also have a Dr. Fate at 65 points. And then if you have multiples of them, he can increase your action total. So I just like using one at 65 and then maybe a few for 10 points, really just because this gets you a lot of telekinesis. For those types of teams where you want to use telekinesis on multiple characters, just adding multiples of him for 10 points can help you out a lot. Now, Red Tornado is the same for that type of strategy, and I did show him off in the Force Blast video, but he also has a very good telekinesis power, which is power. Red Tornado can use telekinesis twice at no cost. So again, for only 75 points, he can actually be telekinesing twice, which is pretty much the same point cost as Dr. Fate plus a second Dr. Fate. But in Dr. Fate's case, you can add multiple more of him for 10 points and get even more telekinesis. But it's more actions, and he can use it twice with just one action. Now, finishing off my DC side of things here, we have Mr. Oz. He's a very powerful telekinesis figure, mainly because of his attack power here that gives him telekinesis. And whenever a character is placed by telekinesis, after resolutions, you may place that character within 2 squares in line of fire of their current square. He also has the damage power that gives him probability control with a range value of 12, and when he uses it, he can use improved targeting, blocking, elevated, and characters. Now the reason this is so good is he does have a 40-point line, which in this instance will just be his first 2 clicks, and if he passes that red line, he'll be KO'd. But to have a 7 range with stealth and super senses, the ability to see through all terrain with a 12 range probability control after you've TK'd your character out is incredibly helpful, but mainly the ability to place characters an additional 2 squares in line of fire is super beneficial for you, and that affects your opponent's characters. So if they use telekinesis, you can actually place them 2 squares back or off to the side somewhere where they won't want to be. So for only 40 points, he's probably my favorite telekinesis figure. But I've got a few more to show you guys. Now, X-Men figures have always been great for telekinesis, and I'll show you why. I'll start off with this Jean Grey right here. And she's only 50 points, but she has this special attack power that lets her use telekinesis, and she can use it as a free action if she has no action tokens. For only 50 points, that is great. That can potentially get you 2 uses of telekinesis on your first turn, and just being able to use it as a free action is always incredibly helpful. And that's why we have Rachel Summers right here. Now on her normal trait, she can use telekinesis, and telekinesis as free, but only if she was targeted with an attack since your last turn. So there's lots of applications for that, but if you do happen to be playing her on a Jean Grey for Higher Learning theme team, then she can use Telekinesis and Telekinesis as free, which is even better if you play her on that theme team. That again, it's going to get you multiple uses of Telekinesis in a turn. And she has multiple starting lines at 100 or 50, and a pretty good dial as a secondary attacker as well. And then of course the Rachel Summers Phoenix over here. As I showed earlier, I mainly like her as a telekinesis figure on her 25 point line, because that will get you that 10 range with the colossal size to see over things. And telekinesis for only 25 points with that kind of range and sight is incredible. And of course Magneto, the Master of Magnetism, is also great at telekinesis. This smaller version of him here has a special power that lets him use telekinesis, and once per turn when he uses it after resolutions, you can roll a d6. On a 5 or a 6, you can choose to remove an action token from a character placed by this telekinesis, or he can immediately use telekinesis at no cost. So again, multiple uses of telekinesis if you roll 5 or 6, or the ability to remove an action token from who you placed can be extremely useful if you roll that 5 or 6. Now as for the big Magneto, he also has a 25 point line where he can use sidestep and telekinesis. Now he's not a colossal, so he won't have that extra sight to see over things, but he does have an 8 range, which is very good. And if we look at the front of his card, he has a trait. He can use leadership and free, choose a character within his range and line of fire, and place that character in a square adjacent to its current square. So not only can you use telekinesis, but you can also, as a free action, place a character into an adjacent square. So you can maybe get that telekinesis character an extra square out, or move one of their characters into a not so good position, or really whatever you need to do with that. It's a very useful power when combined with telekinesis. And then on top of that, he's also going to be a Colossal Retaliator for your team, but without Colossal Indifference, so he can actually be making attacks on that 25 point line against regular sized characters, which is going to be incredibly helpful for only 25 points. But my favorite X-Men telekinesis character is this guy right here, Hellion. He has this special attack power for only 40 points. He can use telekinesis, and when he uses it, you may deal him 1 unavoidable damage. If you do, after resolutions, he can use telekinesis at no cost. Now, there is a difference between no cost and as free. Free action can only be done once per turn. At no cost can be done multiple times. And if we take a look at the back of his dial, you can see he's got some sidestep and some leadership as well to help out the team, but he's got 3 straight clicks of that special power. So he can use telekinesis once, and then you can choose to give him an unavoidable damage to use telekinesis again. And then after using it the second time, you can give him an unavoidable damage to use it a 3rd time. And then you can give him an unavoidable damage to use it a 4th time and get him onto his last click there, where he won't have the special, but he'll still have telekinesis and some willpower. So he can potentially telekinesis 4 times in 1 turn, moving your whole entire team up, which is potentially huge for only 40 points. And I just have a few more Marvel ones I wanted to share with you guys. Over here I have Voyager. She's pretty new from the Black Panther and the Illuminati set. She's great to carry characters around, but she also has that special on her attack that lets her use telekinesis, but only to place characters, and when she uses it, neither she nor the target character square need line of fire to the destination square. So that can be amazingly helpful if you get stuck on a map with lots of blocking terrain or walls, to be able to telekinesis them through the walls without needing any kind of line of fire, maybe behind characters, can be very big and incredibly useful for only 50 points. Then over here I have Major Victory from the old Guardians of the Galaxy set. This guy can be a lot of fun, but he's got this special on his damage that Major Victory can use leadership, perplex, and telekinesis. When he uses telekinesis, he may use it a 2nd time as a free action, but only to place a friendly character with the Guardians of the Galaxy keyword. So again, multiple uses of telekinesis if you're playing him on a Guardians of the Galaxy team, and some perplex and leadership also to help out the team. while also having some very good stats as an attacker with some running shot penetrating blast for 4 damage. And finally over here we have Black Widow from the new Black Widow movie set. She's a shifting focus character, so you can shifting focus to all those really awesome Black Widows in that set. But her attack power lets her use telekinesis, but only to place friendly characters of equal or lower points. And when she uses it, you can choose Empower or Enhancement, and the placed character can use the chosen power this turn. And she also has some leadership and some stuff to help out the team. She's 75 points, so any character of 75 points or less that she places can also use Empower or Enhancement, which can be just extra bonuses for your team. She's also got some prob and some sidestep there, so she's very good at helping out the team, getting them in position, and giving them some extra Empower or Enhancement damage too. And lastly, I wanted to show you guys some characters outside of Marvel and DC, so I got a couple of my favorite Yu-Gi-Oh pieces with telekinesis. Catapult Turtle here is pretty awesome. He is 120 points, and he's got the special attack power that says he can use telekinesis, but only to place adjacent friendly characters with a lower point value. When it does, after actions resolve, that character may make a close or ranged attack as a free action. So placing your characters with telekinesis and then also giving them a free attack is incredibly powerful. As long as they're less than 125 points and adjacent to him, he can telekinesis them, give them that free attack, and then they can make their own attack as a costed action after that. And then similarly, Cannon Soldier over here has a special where he can use telekinesis, but only to place adjacent friendly characters. And when it does, its line of fire isn't blocked by the placed character, and after actions resolve, it may make a ranged combat attack as a free action with an area of effect targeting all opposing characters adjacent to the placed character. Hit characters are each dealt 2 damage. So it's kind of like using Energy Explosion with the character you're using as telekinesis as like the center point of the energy explosion. They're not going to take any damage from it, but anybody that's adjacent to them after they've been placed could potentially take 2 damage if he hits them with an attack. But that's going to do it for my favorite telekinesers. Alright guys, so that's going to do it for this episode of Power of the Week. You got to let me know in the comments what powers you want to see me cover next week. And let me know what some of your favorite telekinesis strategies and figures are. I would love to hear about it. And let me know also if you have any questions about how to use telekinesis. If there's anything you didn't understand, I will do my best to answer all your questions in the comments. But as always, if you liked this video, please leave me a like. And if you like videos like these and anything Heroclix related, make sure you click that subscribe button so you don't miss a video. But until next time, you guys, this has been Heroclix Headquarters, signing off.